All right. Well, I'm ready. You guys ready?
Let's do this.
Let's go.
All right, let's rock and roll. So we're back here in the office. We had to, well, this isn't the office. This is the living room studio now.
Exactly, the office.
The backdrop is
tax deductible.
It's now the kitchen instead of the pool table.
Yes.
You can probably see the coffee machine over there. That's about the most interesting.
The one that makes decaf?
Other than that, it's a bunch of, it's four balding men sitting at a table. And,
my head is shaved.
Whatever. We know what you're hiding.
Yeah.
Listen, ours are too. And that means we know what you're hiding. Okay. Nobody shaves their head when they have just perfect head of hair.
I did.
No,
I
you
did.
didn't.
Yes, I did. At 30, yes.
There's only one way to prove that, and that's you got to grow your hair out again. And I just don't know that that's going to happen.
I just don't want to do it.
So
no shave November, right?
No.
There's no fix. Lying is not a fix, okay?
So this week, though, we're joined with Wim and Bart from, what's the name of your organization, if you will? Does it have a name? You're just doing a thing?
Yeah, it has a name. Yeah, two separate ones. Mine is Smart Sport.
Okay.
Yeah. And this one is Raw Performance.
Raw Performance.
Yeah.
So if you have noticed, it's a table full of accents today. Yeah. So we have Belgium, French, and South Dakota, which is his own, and Hick, which is his own country.
It's
so it's going to be great.
A Minnesota accent.
Yeah.
Well,
it's going to be fun.
So you guys have been kind of around doing you guys seminar. How long ago, Wim, did you do the seminar?
Mine has been almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it was the first one in Antwerp.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's probably one of the early 8 that we did, like the early round of the world tour. So it has to be probably close to 3 years.
Yeah. By the way, we need to bring that terminology back, the StrongFit World Tour, because it's actually making Instagram posts for something that's about the StrongFit seminar. I'm like, World Tour sounds way more Aerosmith than
totally agree.
Than seminar.
That's when we were rocking it. Yeah.
But so the reason you guys are here, though, is you guys have been doing a massive amount of work over the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And your space is a space that Julian and I are insultingly unfamiliar with, which is the world of endurance and most specifically running.
Worse than endurance, running. So that means I will not be listening to any of this. So if you see me dozing off, that's why.
So very similar to how we had Andrew, who has taken a lot of the stuff with the breathing into the rowing and conditioning for performance.
For sports, yeah.
For sport,
player,
because Julian and I are not going to be doing that work. That's why that was a good piece to bring on. It's when we see people doing what you guys are doing, which is taking StrongFit principles and applying it to something that we wouldn't touch.
Yeah.
Not for any reason other than that it was just not our world.
I don't do cardio.
It's just not our world. Nobody's going to listen.
No, I don't want to do it either. That is not just because it's not my world. It will never be my world.
No one's going to hire me for running advice.
They do marathon.
Yeah.
It's bad for you. The first guy died. You know the story, right? The dude died. It just tells you something about running a marathon. I'm just saying, it's not good for you.
But you guys have now done a lot of work that has not only just taken the principles we talk about and solidified them, put it into practice. But you've also taken it even further. Yeah. So will you tell me let's just outline what you've been kind of working in, and then we'll get into we'll just go off on tangents from there.
Yeah. So basically, the thing that we're doing for I think 5 years now is people who want to run a marathon, for example, or a short distance, doesn't really matter. They need help. They don't know how to build up their miles or their kilometers. They don't know which speed or pace they have to run. Yeah. So they come to us, and then the first thing that we do is we test them.
When you say they want to run, you're talking about people that want to compete in running?
Most of them,
they want to actually...
I
actually want to do this seriously.
It happens when I ask, what is the purpose of your running? I just want to improve my health.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you have that too?
Yeah, you have both of them.
But at the same time, they all want to have an objective because it's popular. You're doing 10 miles in Antwerp is one of the biggest.
But some do it for health as well. It's not just I want to beat the shit out of other people.
So you are dealing with a mix of competitive athletes.
This is a mix.
And some weekend warriors.
It's going exactly
with goals.
Exactly. It's going from the most start to run people to athletes that it coming to us.
You do have actually people that are trying to get to the Olympics 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
To Tokyo. Yeah, so as bad as high
from
level.
Marathon for the marathon.
Yeah, so you get basically both sides of the equation, but as high as you can get in your sport. Yeah,
exactly.
That's great.
It's not actually Tokyo, or is it? There's a lot of discussion in the running world about the heat of Tokyo being too high.
Why they switched it?
Sapporo.
Yeah. Right. So that
it has to do with the climate.
Right. But they complain in Tokyo about it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course they did. Right. I saw that. Yeah.
It's usually the last event of the Olympics is the finishing marathon. The last weekend in the city center draws massive crowd. If you take it away,
they took it outside.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're not happy that I didn't book my flight yet.
Yeah.
This is 600 kilometers further. Yeah.
Right. Yes, it's at the other bottom. Yeah. It's completely south. Yeah.
So basically, what we do is he does the testing, right? And I'm more there. Like I haven't been there from the start. No, I've been business supporting him from the start with logistics mostly, but I've been jumping in more to fix people. Like I copied your saying, like they can come to me before or after they get injured. Yeah. Most of them wait till they're actually injured.
Runners wait for it.
Yeah, but go back to the test, because that is the first thing that we do. People come to us, and what does the test? What do we do? Well, we let them run first at a very low pace, really slow. And every repeat we go a little bit faster and faster and faster, and we monitor the heart rate, we monitor the lactate in the blood, and then we'll build up what we call the lactate curve, and we'll start with looking into when are you running in your aerobic capacity, and when is it shifting more towards the anaerobic capacity.
So that tells you basically the pace where they can stay without burning out for the long distance and stuff like that.
So we can give them tools, pace or heart rate zones, that you can say, if you run at this pace or this heart rate zone, then you will build up, for example, more of your endurance capacity, because you will build up in your muscle fibers, your mitochondria, and other structures. And when we go into the interval training or the resistance training, you build up something totally else. So
can we go into this, because that's very interesting? So you say you have two sides you build. You have basically the mitochondria, so the energy level on one side, and then on the other is going to be more like the aerobic capacity technically. So how do you establish how to run more toward energy producing mitochondria and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So bring it on, because I'm not a number guy, so I think everybody will enjoy going into the technical aspect of this.
So the first they do is we ask to them to run at a really slow pace.
Painfully slow.
It's painfully
slow. So you say like barely past walking,
this
right?
Hurts. This hurts for walking. It's not natural running. Okay, we do that because we want to see from the start until the full speed. We want to measure everything.
Heart rate, the whole thing.
The main thing it does is draw the blood all the time, right? So people call him the vampire because he's right.
And you join the blood to test for lactate.
Exactly.
Can you please explain what lactate is? Because some people will not know.
Okay, we have to first get rid of a miscommon thing. Some people think like lactate is a waste product.
Right.
That's
it used to be called lactic acid, and now we call it lactate.
Exactly.
Yeah, and people think it's a waste product of
just to keep it simple, I say lactic, but it's lactic acid, and it splits in your blood into hydrogen ion and then into lactic. But that's more deep to it.
Just say lactate.
Yeah, to keep.
So what is lactic?
So it's not a waste product. Actually,
how is it being produced? Sorry, I know people. We have to go through it. How is lactate being produced? Let's start with that.
When you start running, you have, to keep it simple, two types of muscle fibers. You have your slow muscle fibers, you have your fast one. Your slow muscle fibers, they work with oxygen. So it's like they burn your fats and they burn your...
That's the aerobic...
That's your aerobic system. But as well, when running at a really slow pace, there's already a little bit of help with your fast muscle fibers. It's always
stabilizing.
It's always little. So what do? They produce energy without use of oxygen. So that's the anaerobic capacity. But they have like an effect, like they produce as well lactate.
So lactate is... so it's not a waste product, but it comes basically at the second part. Once the muscle starts working, it's going to produce a product called lactate. And that's why they call it a waste product, because it's being produced after you start exercising.
Exactly. But what is really interesting in this is like your lactate can be reupdated in the slow muscle fibers. So your fast ones, they produce it.
And then
they give it away.
Is being used. So it is being used as fuel by your slow muscle fibers.
You can burn it again.
So it's not a waste product; it's a necessity. It's actually a fuel.
The problem is the name originates from the fact that they call it lactate clearance rate. So it kind of clearing means like getting rid of it. That's not really what's going on.
It's funny because we talked about that in the last podcast when we say the power of words. that people use words that create an entire issue because they put an idea in place that is very hard to shake. Most people think now lactate as a waste product, but it's a waste product of the fast twitch muscle, but as a fuel for the slow twitch muscle. So I think it's very important to clarify that because a lot of really people will not understand. So lactate is a fuel, basically. It's a fuel for your aerobic capacity.
Yeah, and that has also consequences. It means that you have to train both the systems, right? Because if you train only your aerobic capacity,
you don't have enough lactate, you don't have enough fuel.
And it's not only that, because if you only train at a slow pace, it's really interesting because your endurance capacity will rise, but you don't have speed.
You can't use it. So you're saying, for example, strength training is important for runners.
But the opposite is also true, by the way.
Exactly.
No. I totally
disagree. One of the last podcasts I heard you saying like, endurance training at a low heart rate can be interesting.
For that, we're going to get to that.
We're going
to get to that. But that's because I was talking about training the heart from a software, technically a hardware perspective, but we're going to get to that. But first, let's go back to lactate. So you produce lactate, and lactate is a fuel.
Is a fuel, but make it practical. Like we have a marathon runner. And he starts at his marathon pace. Normally, when a runner should know that he, like for example, 5 minutes a kilometer. Then he should end in 3 hours 30 minutes. But
5 minute mile.
5 minutes a kilometer.
5 minutes a kilometer. Because I was like, I'm not running that either. But
he runs in 2:46 now.
43.
2:43. So he's going at what is it? 4 and a bit.
No, 3:52.
3:52. And that's I mean.
But
I'll do 100 meters.
The most common, I will say it like this: the most common mistake that marathon runners will do, they start too fast. Marathon. So what happens that they start with the slow muscle fibers with the help of the fast muscle fibers. They produce lactate.
And
you have the clearance, exactly. You have the clearance and you have the reuptake. But when there's no balance between them, when there's for example too much clearance then you can reuptake. Then you have a problem. And mostly that will be between kilometer 30, 35, maybe 40. And then they will suddenly feel
that's when they hit the wall.
That's when they hit the wall.
Okay. It's because they went at a pace that I see what you're saying. That's very interesting.
That's one way to
say the problem is that balance between aerobic and anaerobic systems.
Really.
If you don't respect it properly, at the
There's
wall
like
you're going to die.
Another way to hit the wall is like when you empty all your glucose, your glycogen is low. Okay, you fall completely back on your fats. Okay, then you feel like, I have no power.
Because it's not the same.
Okay, but when you're too high in lactate, your system will shut itself down.
Shut off.
And then we're going to get to that. But what's the very interesting part is that we've been doing testing to see what's going on. Right?
We're going to get to that because I want to. But first, I want to explain how both sides work. Because as you were saying, so you have two systems. You have to build the endurance, but you also have to build the strength system so you run fast enough. So the endurance is mitochondria. It's all that stuff. So that means, but you're going to train that by making them go not fast.
True.
Then, so you're going to make them.
That's really long, slow distance training.
Right. So define low for people because I really don't think they understand what slow means.
Slow, like if you can give, it's an average, right? Because that's why they do.
Everybody's different. We all agree. Everybody's different, right?
If we can get an average, like for men, we can say heart rate, keep it below 140.
So that's slow.
That's slow, And mostly for women because the heart rate's a bit higher. It's like keep it below 150.
Women are a bit higher heart rate than men.
Yeah, they are higher.
Oh shit! On the same. How interesting.
And it's only it's also influenced by the age, of course. When you get older,
of course. By the way, we're saying average. 140, depending on the age, so gender.
That's why they come do a test.
Physical condition. Yes, exactly. And that's what you're going to establish, right? You're going to establish what that number should be, so that they can learn to run slow at that particular pace.
Exactly.
And then, how long you make them run that slow? How many on average? You would say you make them run 30 minutes, an hour?
No. Yeah, we build that up.
You build that up?
We build that up, yeah.
Up to,
but for the test, you mean? Or for
let's say for both. For the test, for example.
Yeah, for the test, they run 5 minutes in a certain pace. They come to me, I be the vampire, and I check the blood.
And you check the blood for the lactate?
Exactly.
Okay.
At that pace, I can see, literally, the device tells me within 10 seconds, is this guy still running aerobic, or are we shifting towards anaerobic?
All right, so you're going to know exactly the shift from the two systems based
when he comes back,
on the rate of lactate in their blood.
Exactly.
Okay.
When he comes back,
after 5 minutes, you're going to make them back and run a little bit faster.
Right.
And then you keep going that how many times?
Until I see on my device that he has reached a certain amount of lactate.
All right.
It's basically...
That's the thing with the numbers.
Yeah, that's their pace. Yeah, and then you measure heart rate, you measure all that stuff, and you know exactly at what pace they should run to stay in the aerobic capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
To give you an idea, it's mostly just like measurements of one or two, and all of a sudden it spikes up to 4, and then the next one is 8 or 10.
Oh, yes,
so it's exponential. Like
it goes up real fast.
They start, the number is the same. Why it is the same? Because they run at the pace, but it's still aerobic. And as long as aerobic...
And then when you start to get close, you're starting to get...
The reuptake will be higher
when the strength system starts to take. That's because they're switching to sympathetic. And so that makes sense.
He just determines the point of this is the heart rate or the speed where that's your maximum capacity. If you do this, you can pretty much run as long as you want, assuming you have fuel.
So we need to explain. Those people can tell that pace. So you have qualified, most people are already kind of, they're good runners in that sense.
Exactly.
In that they know themselves, they know what pace you're talking about. I don't know that a beginner could necessarily do that without the data, but on people, so they know at what pace they can just keep on going.
And what's also important is to know at what lactate value can you run, for example, a marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
Or do you run a 10K? Yeah, the 10K you
depending on what you want.
It's more anaerobic than you run a marathon.
So that means that once you've done all that testing, you can tell someone exactly what pace to run for a 5K or 10K or marathon and everything.
He goes way beyond because he has advanced metrics there. That it starts from the lactate measurement, but then he goes into things like Vo2 Max, right?
It's VLA Max, yes.
Right? VLA Max, I remember those ones from
And then you can pretty much determine like exactly the time someone will have for 1 hour.
Explain. They love it. Explain.
Like most people, they are already familiar with the Vo2 Max.
No.
Okay.
Explain, please.
The Vo2 Max is like the number of...
I like your confidence in people. I have less. Let me put it this way. Probably because I have more experience.
Julian is not a runner.
Exactly.
Vo2 Max is like the amount of maximum oxygen that you can uptake within a certain amount of time to produce your energy.
Yep.
So it's like, you can say it's like, it's a number that you can take responsibility for the aerobic capacity. But you have, on the other end, you have the anaerobic capacity. And it's like Sebastian Weber, I don't know if the name tells you something, but it's like a really big coach in cycling.
Yes, that's why I knew that.
He came up with the VLA Max, and that's like the speed of your production of your lactate. It's
not how fast you build.
How fast that indeed in your muscle fibers that you're building up your lactate. And that's like really important to know. Because if you can test one and you can see like this guy, he has a great endurance capacity, but he's not building up like his lactate is staying slow. That's a guy for a marathon, for example. But if you see like, okay, his capacity...
For 5K, it's a problem though.
For 5K,
because you need to run fast.
He has no power.
He has no power. So he won't be gassed, but he won't run fast either.
Exactly.
So that's a problem.
So he actually sees like the endurance is the Vo2 Max and the lactate.
Is Vo2 Max.
And then the other side, you have the anaerobic. So the power is being expended by the VLA Max.
Exactly.
Which tells you how fast you run.
And for a marathon runner, he would want it to be as how do you say it?
Well, you have to for a marathon runner, you have to keep it as low as possible, but as high as needed. You want a certain pace, but you don't want a too high pace, because if that is the case,
then you'll burn out.
Exactly.
But if you get a hill or you get some wind,
and by the way, you can build both. That's the point. You're testing to see where they are now, and then you're going to try to build based on what they want to do.
Exactly. Make the difference between recreational runners and elite runners. Because when someone is new at running, for example, you come.
Yes, that's for sure.
Then I'm sure we have a lot of things to win in the aerobic zone.
Yes, I can tell you that right now.
Of course, I think your maximum lactate production will be quite high. I assume.
I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
I can produce a lot of lactate. I agree with that.
But if I ask you to run long, slow, it will be a problem.
Fuck yeah. You know why? Because I won't do it. That's why it'd be a problem. But
for those people, the recreational people.
By the way, I'm joking about this, but that's very true, because I've been doing lately what we in December we'll call like that active meditation. Is I cannot do almost any work with a heart rate under 120. And if I put any kind of I feel actually my muscle working, it jumps to 140, 150. I'm incapable of doing slow work. Like to a degree where I'm like, I need to work on this, because it's ridiculous. Because any effort, I'm at 90. I was watching, I would put the Apple Watch. I can't go up and down the stairs without, I go from 65 to 90 with any effort whatsoever now. That's starting to be a problem.
So then maybe you should consider being a
400
meter sprint.
Exactly. That's a good point.
You did a 5K under 20.
Not under 20. I did it in 2022 or something. I never went under 20. But I only did one. So I just wanted to make a point and I did only one.
Yeah, but there is a large advantage in training it. Like he explained from the hardware side, we're training the cells to have more energy systems, mitochondria. So that will benefit you.
I'm joking about cardio because I love making that joke. But the fact is, like, I cannot do any slow work that tells you something about my heart and my capacity to not pound myself. So obviously my recovery between workouts is affected because I can never calm down. So I need to build that aerobic capacity just so I can go up the stairs at 70 instead of fucking 90 because then I can't recover for my next workout. So in that sense, I agree with you completely. I make the joke all the time, but this is something actually in the last 2 weeks that I've been doing is forcing myself to do work at 120. And by the way, it has raised my everyday energy levels. So the whole, you get more energy out of it. Even me, I can attest directly that it is necessary. But I like the fact that what is very important for people to understand is, as you say, it's slow. Usually on average it's 140. Most people think running, it's 150, 160 for an hour.
It's annoying slow.
It's never slow.
Yeah, it is. So what was I saying? Make the difference between recreational runner. You can win easily by letting him run more at the aerobic side. You have to build up first the structure, you have to build up the mitochondria, and then you can put up some intervals, some resistance training. And then it's interesting because then you have both of sides, the arch and the endurance and the resistance, and you can start building up.
So you build the arch.
You see he's been listening, right?
I love it. It's great.
But then you go, if we see elite athletes, you can assume, and that's what we see, the lactate curve is it's a perfect curve. It's long, it stays flat, and so it rises and it goes into a certain amount of lactate. What do you have to do with them? Because
from a hardware perspective, you're this is it.
A lot of coaches, they're let's do more of the same that we did before, because that make us grow. That's so wrong.
Before we go into this next part too, one of the main points that I know that you guys have been working with is removing this outcome-based perspective, this setting the pace, all these things from the way that you train. So as you kind of go forward into the next part, I'd like to hear how you are handling applying constraints to this so that we are getting the software response instead of the traditional more is better. Or we did this before. I just need more miles under my belt. I just need to lower the pace. How do you do that when the culture, I think, from what I see amongst some of the runners that I've coached outside of running, is very much a goal, a time, a pace, a heart rate.
And a distance. It's all about distance.
It starts with the lactate. Why is he's been doing it for a long time. I've joined later, but why is it so good? It's the perfect metric. You can't turn it into an objective. You technically you could, but it's very hard for people to go with objective mind towards lactate. You can't. So it's a measurement. And then you can define your training program, and that's how I wanted to link up, because I was I'm seeing the same thing happening at StrongFit. They're not objective focused. They're working with constraints. He's basically determining by doing the curve. He's determining which area don't need help.
Right, so I think that's where you're different, because all the other guys, they basically don't care about the area that needs work. They just tell you do more. Whatever got you here, do more of it, because he got you here, right? So more of it has to be good.
It kills you every
exactly. Whereas you see from the curve that now we need to address a different area.
You need another approach.
They don't even consider. I'm sure.
You really have to check what is necessary.
That makes sense, right? You would think they would know it, but But you were telling me, so you have all the lactate build-up and everything, and so people understand the numbers we're talking about. To your top people, that means you know that because they can keep 170 heart rate for about an hour straight running. That's fucking insane.
It is.
An hour straight at 170.
So what is the difference between a trained runner and one that's started an untrained runner? Is a trained runner, he can use a bigger percentage of his Vo2 max. So we can run, for example, his 10K at 59% of his Vo2 max. And the runner that the runner has to start.
So
he's using 10K at 90% of his VO2 max.
So he's using all of the oxygen he's getting in. He's actually using it, whereas most people are.
I bet you are at 45%.
And a runner that starts, you like you say, 50% of it. Yeah.
The guy runs a 10K at 90% of his VO2 max. Fuck me. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's impressive. Really not that I want to do it, but it's still fucking impressive. Wow. Oh yeah. So
it's important because if you see like the biomedical part of it, like you start with glucose and you go to the pyruvate and you go into glucose. Okay, but then you.
Sorry, they don't know, but
exactly. So then you produce ATP.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's quite a lot in the way of the aerobic system.
Yeah.
But if you see like, and maybe it's interesting for you, it's like 32 ATP, but where does it go? It doesn't go fully into your muscle fibers. 60% of it goes to heating up your body.
Yeah.
And
only entropy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And only 40% you can use for like really moving and for your capacity. That's what you say. It's like the entropy fight against the everything.
You always have to fight against it. Going back I found very interesting what you say. Like they can run a 2K at 95% of their max VO2 max. It's insane. Looking at those numbers, it would be insane to me to consider of doing more of that. Because the amount of work to go from 95 to 96% would be, it's exponentially, like it's so much work to get so little result.
And considering then you're already at a point of nearly elite performance.
You're maxing
now what
out.
are you going to do? Just pile on volume on elite level volume anyway.
But that's what they're doing, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, that's why you see everybody breaking, right? Yeah. So at that sense, that's why you have to switch to an aerobic capacity so they run faster. Yeah, but you can't really increase the VO2 max. That's why the VLA max starts to come into play, because at some point the VO2 max is only so much you can do with that.
Yeah, your VLA max is like your border to say like, if it's too high, you cannot use a high percentage of your VO2 max. Just like the Guardian, it will say if it's low, okay, you can stay running at slow pace. But when it's too high, it won't work.
So that's what you're gonna, on those top athletes that have such an aerobic capacity, to make them go faster. That's what you start to play with.
Then you start to play with
the VLA max.
You take into account periodization. You see when they have a race.
But that's very important because that tells the people there, the regular club runner versus an elite athlete. The regular club runner needs to work on his VO2 max because he has so much progress to make there. Exactly. So he needs to run slow, not fast. True. The fast is for the fucking Kenyans.
Meaning chasing that, if you are an average runner then,
you should not run fast.
The worst thing you need to be doing, or the last thing you should be doing then is really worrying about what the 15K you ran on a Saturday morning, how fast it was.
Right. So, for example,
because
for me,
really need to keep it underneath.
The worst thing you can do is go out and running each time until you're dead. It's the worst thing you can do.
That was my specialty.
People have to understand, like, go running 70-80% of the time. It has to be easy.
Yeah, plus, when you mean easy, you mean fucking slow. Even the average is under 140. That probably means me at 120, which was what I've been doing lately.
So when we talk constraints, how do you build that in for somebody? Do you go heart rate? Do you determine what that pace is?
That's a funny subject actually, because sometimes we work with constraints where they have to limit their zones. Sometimes it's feeling based. That's something new that we've been doing.
Because that's hard with them, right?
For some elite athletes, while they're in a race, for example, even the pace could be a constraint.
Right.
Like they have to run at this pace. For them, it's not an objective because the objective is getting to the finish line. The running at the pace is a constraint because they want to go faster. They feel like they can go faster, but you just put it there like, okay, this is the pace you're doing.
Put yourself on rails, basically. That is something like that. I had a conversation with an endurance person who was like, because it's a point I was making about strength training versus cardio, is that strength training, we know not to max out. We know you have to max out, you have to build. And you test once every 6-8 weeks. With a lot of endurance people, they test. Every single run is a test. They never build. They just test. Test and test. Because they see the top people, but they don't understand you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're not building up.
You're never building up.
A big factor in that one is that they all wear the nice sports watches. Right? It's all connected to like software system. And even the recovery runs get posted to the community page. And they're like, look at my speed in my recovery. And I'm like, what was the goal of the recovery run? So
recovery usually is like 50% of your max heart rate max, right? By the way, how do you calculate max heart rate for a person? Because you guys do all this and most people don't know.
It's with a progressive test. So we load, and at the end we do a full sprint. 400 or 600 meter. And then, we measure
600 meters, that's not a full sprint.
What world do you sprint in?
No, exactly. They just die. They just die.
You have to
200 meters in, they just die, and the last part is just...
And that tells you your true heart rate. Right. So that's the only way truly... By the way, those are true measurements. That's the only way to do that. You want to know lactate, you're going to have to do the blood stuff. You want to know true heart rate,
you have to do the test.
Don't go take that number and reduce
220 minus your age.
Thing you can do.
That doesn't work. You're telling me 220 minus your age doesn't work.
We haven't seen one single athlete where the default heart rate zones of the watches actually match their heart rates measured by the lactate. It does not work like that. So if you're...
Only one ever got out of 1,000?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if you're actually looking at that one and then running according to some online template based on what your watch is telling you, you're not making progress.
Yeah, you're not only are you doing things that aren't what you think they're doing, you're chasing goals that aren't even yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That tells you something about assessments and online programming, by the way.
Yeah. So I want to go into this further from the hardware-software discussion, right? So what I like about this is you've done a very effective job of adding data to kind of back up the where the hardware sits. And I'd like to hear from you guys kind of where that aligns with some of the things Julian's been talking about with the nervous system specifically, flow, fight, flight, freeze, all those things. What do you see those things reflected in what you're doing, and then how are you using them? And the data behind
We'll start off easy with the test protocol. Let's go back to the test protocol. So what we see when people start running, actually, you get a little spike in the lactate first.
Yeah, that's interesting because people don't understand it. Like, no, I'm running really slow. I did what you asked me. And still is a little spike.
Because you're a little excited.
So
it got started.
It's one, and it's also you start moving, so your body reacts to it.
So relatively.
So I guess that's a slot.
Because it's a sympathetic reaction.
Yeah, and
when you cut yourself,
of course,
and
you're in a test. I know that you're a bit nervous.
Right.
I know that your first measurement will then the second and the third one.
But it shows you the access to. That's why that low heart rate. Like the second you go to a sympathetic reaction, you're switching to VLA max instead of staying in Vo2 max. Vo2 max has to be under the sympathetic threshold, which is what we talked about with the heart rate. You know, the low versus high vagal tone is down before switching to sympathetic. So the low versus high vagal tone has to be trained within the Vo2 max measures.
So what do? I do an intake with people. But the intake is like, okay, I need certain details of them. But the intake is just to calm them down. You're like, okay, it's a test, but it's chill and we make a joke exactly. And we're not alone and this guy. Right. Okay, now that stress is gone, and then they start.
And then they start the test.
From the software side, we actually did, or you did actually do testing, a lot of individual testing in the start. And ever since you've switched to group testing, what you see is that the first spike is actually lower.
It's less.
Because the social environment is more.
That's a tribe mentality stuff.
It's more, and also now most people come into retest every few months.
So they're familiar.
They're familiar.
And they know the procedure.
That shows you the impact of the software on the physiological response.
But you also see when they come in the first time after their first loop, they come in and ask them, okay, how long did you run? I'll check. They're a little bit nervous. After 4 or 5 times, they did 100 meters. My heart rate was this and that. And okay, he's relaxed.
But that also that shows you like the software will influence directly the physiology, like for example the VLA max. Like just you being nervous means you're gonna run faster and too hard.
True.
So that's important for runners to know. Like sometimes, because you can train your VO2 max like crazy, but the day of the competition you're nervous, you switch too fast to the VLA max.
That's actually the topic we're gonna get to. That's one of the main things.
That's exactly what's really important to let them. They have to know that.
Right. The
for
software,
training as well.
Yeah, exactly.
If some coaches they say today is like LSD. LSD is like the long, slow distance. Oh, you have to run slow. But if the guy today if the athlete
is in the wrong
mood, why should he run?
Yes, right. Because he can't build at VO2 max anyway. He's going to do something else.
Yeah. He's like in the mood of let me fight today.
So and instead of frustrating him, you want to actually let him go at it. Yeah. So then you'll make him run faster. Shorter.
That's one of the things.
You do the resistance training.
And I think that's one of the things you change, right? After I've introduced StrongFit to him, and then you start following. First, it was like a fixed training template, and I was like, but this doesn't work because they're not in the right state. So here's what you need to do overall in a week or a month.
Right, exactly. Do it. And that's been my point. Is like because that's that even for strength training. Maybe today is not a bench day. Exactly. It's on a squat day. As long as you do it this week, we're cool. Maybe today is a squat day. Yeah. So it's the same thing for endurance.
It's the same thing. Like, what day is this day? Are you a slower run, or are you going to the resistance training? What is it today?
Yeah, just the mood alone will tell you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the first weeks, as a coach, I will determine, like, okay, you can see it if you talk with them.
Once you know your athlete.
Exactly. Yeah. But like now we're moving a little bit more like, maybe you should decide which day it is today. And then we'll see, like.
And that makes a huge difference. Didn't you have that story about that person at PR, the 5K, on a day where she was supposed to run 30K? How did that go? I remember you told me that.
Really? Nice.
When was it?
I remember you told me you had an athlete who was supposed to run 30K.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell that story? Because I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a similar story, more fresh one actually.
Okay, bring it on.
From this weekend, right?
No, that's too but that's too different because one is pure being relaxed. Start with the 5K stuff. Like, so you had the athletes?
Yeah. So I noticed when working with the athlete, I was there for, core stability training because that's how runners perceive strength training, right?
Yeah. So I was strength training for runners.
So I was there like...
No, we don't like it.
Core stability. I'll do that.
It works, exactly. Right? Yeah,
the power of words,
maybe we should find someone for endurance for you. When you like
a world that I can do, yeah, exactly.
but
making me stronger in the long run.
So basically what I've noticed.
Yeah, exactly. I don't do any of that.
So I saw that the state wasn't there. There was some stuff going on.
That person was supposed to run 30K that day.
And I was like, no, we're gonna do something like that. Yeah. And I was like, no, because what happens, you will just go and think and go over all the stuff in your head, and no, there's some frustration, there's some anger, like, go do a 5K, and they do the 5K and the PR.
Yeah, there you go.
Without trying, I might.
Yeah, exactly. But see, like, imagine the psychological impact on the athletes, what that 30K would have been like, versus that day getting a PR on the 5K, which of course, by the way, build the trust between you, the coach, and the athlete. Yeah. And on top of it, you had a major win at the end of the day, which is a win for the month, really, versus an awful session that fucks you up mentally. Plus, that idea of following the program no matter what is such a bad idea.
Plus, for an athlete, it says a lot about being able to trust themselves and how they feel then. Because then they come in next time and they go,
they get a connection again with their own body.
And they're like, I got to run 30K, but I just want to rip someone's fucking head off right now.
That's still a huge work in progress.
It's like, just trust the way that you are and let it be.
You know what I also saw is when you give an athlete a program for a week, then they say like, tomorrow is the resistance day, and today, so today I'll be slow. Yeah.
What?
They start thinking, I have to save myself for tomorrow. No. You just train today, and we'll see like tomorrow whatever the state is.
Yeah. So they give them leeway, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't feel it tomorrow, don't worry. Yeah, but exactly. As long as you do it within a week, that's kind of a program for myself. There's certain movements I want to do this week. The day, who knows? But you had that second story where you were saying with one of your athletes who just had a massive PR, though. That's your top athlete, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a PR, but it was like she was going to a tough period, really. Mentally, but also physically, like it wasn't going very well.
She's trying to make the Olympics.
She's going for the Olympics, exactly, and like a lot of stress on her. And she decided, like, okay, now I'm putting all the stress away. I'm just going for I do a race. No one knows. I just go for it and.
Yeah, because you can't go anywhere without people like, you're going to race there.
Not because she's that good. You're going to understand. She ran a marathon in 2:31.
Fantastic good. And
2:31.
In 2:31, And so she did a semi-marathon trail run.
Exactly.
But for fun, like where nobody knew.
Pure for fun.
There wasn't even a podium at the end.
No, it wasn't even a podium.
Oh, yeah, so it was like a regular race.
No podium. So there was just a
almost
race.
Basically no one knew her.
Local area, small town race.
So barely anybody knew her.
She had the best feeling ever.
Yeah, and she ran fast from what I understand.
She ran really fast.
In that condition, especially. Because it wasn't like a perfect track by any means.
So how fast did she run the trail marathon? Half marathon?
The half one was in 1 hour 12 minutes.
Fuck.
It's crazy.
Oh my god.
And you know what's important? When I see her...
I'm just going back to strongman is all I'm saying. But I'm not competing in that shit.
Yeah, when I see her, she was smiling all the time.
Right.
You can focus, smiling, and
read a report. She wrote a small report, and you see like at the end, like some of the guys along the lines against the jury or something, they're yelling at, the battle's been fought. You can just chill and run to the end. And she's like, no way. I'm just like, I'm feeling good. I'm just gonna.
What was her best half marathon time?
It's 1:11 a few seconds. Yeah.
So it pretty much nails that on a trail.
So she did it on a trail
without pushing.
Without pushing, yeah.
So smiling. By the way, how do you smile? How do you smile through a half marathon?
You should see it.
I don't understand. But she basically got the same time on a half marathon as a normal half marathon.
With all the stress and all the things.
In a real competition and everything. Right?
Yeah.
So that brings us to an important topic, because if you go down the testing, it's basically the same thing is happening. Once you go up a few levels and the heart rate starts rising, the speed starts rising, right? Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden you see the lactate spiking up, right? That's a very specific point. And with each measurement we do, so each few labs they do, if it's, we also ask how they feel. We have this scale thing, very easy, and we ask them for a score. How do they feel? And one of them is called spicy. Like feelings. It's getting a little spicy. So that's usually
the spicy. I have to push now and
So let's explain why we established those tests. Because the idea is we started to talk with Wim about this. Is we wanted to see the difference between fight and flight and what that means. The difference between fight and flight is simple. Fight, you want to be there. Flight, you don't. Mm-hmm. So spicy, you're getting to that stage where you go like, pretty soon, I'm going to stop doing, I'm going to start enduring.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't want to be here anymore, but I'm going to keep on running. And runners are very good at that. Running, even though they hate every single step of it, they're very, very good at it. But there's that moment where they go from doing to enduring. And we saw, so that was the fight to flight, and we saw, let's see if we can measure it with actual data. And what you guys found basically was exactly that, right?
Yeah. That's exactly that.
We're now even doing like a double. It's not a blind test, but a double test to check that if our scale doesn't influence, the feedback they give. Because if you put a scale from 1 to 10, and people are gonna say they're gonna go towards the average. That's always the same thing. Now we're changing the scale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we're going 1 to 7 is all doing, is all fine, and 8, 9, 10 is the one where you're like, oh, this is really happening.
They are enjoying,
And we'll see, we're getting this exact same
results.
On top of that, obviously, you
every
can
single
see
time that we did the test, it was the same result.
You can see it when they come in. Like, you can see the facial expression.
Right.
Are they?
So this was an argumentation, but you can't test for fight and flight. Yes, you can. There's something called pupil dilation, which you can test through, but you also, we know the switch to flight, basically, you start to lose certain control of the muscle of the face. Yeah. There are many ways to do all this, and we've been testing. And so, what did you see at the switch from fight to flight on this?
What I see, because you can see the runners, you can see them incoming. So you can see, I told yesterday to you, like the runner is losing the control for his muscles.
Coordination goes through
the coordination is certainly like more to the, like you tell it, the external torque. You can see it.
It's a wet noodle, right? It's a wet noodle running around. Like
it is.
They go to the traps. They start. By the way, that means they chest breathe. Mouth breathing is going to come in like crazy.
I think I did 3,000 tests already. I can do it. I'm really serious. I can do it with my eyes closed. I can just they come. I hear the breathing. I know. Okay, now you're lactate
enduring phase.
They're mouth breathing. They're
chest breathing like crazy. All in the traps.
Just can hear it by the breathing.
Now they're enduring. And so, what did that mean? Take threshold, the fight versus flight.
Yeah, what we see is that that you exactly come to that point where there's like, we call it like the point of no return. When once you have a certain amount of lactate, you cannot keep this pace forever.
You're going to start
hours.
About 45 minutes, right?
When you say lactate threshold, it's not really a threshold.
Whatever. It's for the second argument.
We say like for most people, it's like 45 minutes to 1 hour, 15 minutes. It depends on the level.
That's the pace you can keep for that.
So that pace you can keep. Mostly it's like for 10K or 16K. That you can keep up with. And then it's interesting. Like when you have the perfect curve, like the elite athlete. Yeah. At the 4 millimole, the point of the threshold, you can keep it for 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes. Is there anything else that we can do just next to the training, endurance training, running training, so they can learn to do it longer?
Right.
Exactly. Because that's very interesting. If you have people with the exact same curve, exact same point of no return, so they should have the same thing, right? Physiologically, hardware perspective, there's the same. And yet, have them race. No.
Yeah, and yet, you can say the VLA max because it's a different test. This can be different between them. The one with a higher VLA max, and then you're going for a 10K. Okay, probably this guy will win. If you put the same guys to marathon, the lower one.
From a pure data perspective,
But still, you can say even if the VLA max is the same, what do you have to do?
Yeah.
And then you can bring in I hope, but I know it is, some principles of StrongFit.
We're actually testing that at the moment, right? We're having another test group doing the nasal breathing thing from Andrew. So, which is we have to ease into it gradually because the first thing we're doing.
You have to learn it first.
Nasal breathing is hard.
So we're having them do recovery.
I'm really amazed by like they're running like 5K and 10K and 15K only nasal breathing. I'm like, whoa.
Right.
He's injured. He's injured, so he's not actually doing it himself. So that's why.
And they do it. Just killing you watching.
It kills me. But,
nasal breathing at first, like people don't understand. It's rough. Like it panics you. Like woohoo.
That's what I report first.
That's
like total panic, like I'm hyperventilating or something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we saw that a lot.
Once they go,
calm down.
But you have to realize it for them. They're only running at a very slow pace. We're only asked them to do it in the first recovery zone and in the first long
it's a Vo2 Max thing anyway. So, by the way, did you tell me a story that you had an aerobic threshold for the top athletes at 170, but you managed to raise it to 178? Yeah.
So what we did with that's actually where we wanted to go. So with all that performance training, let's call it as it is, working on the fight mode. That's what we're doing. We're trying to. What we're trying to do is to have them train to stay in flow under pressure. So that basically means from a hardware perspective, we want them to stay under that lactate threshold as long as possible. So that means when you can give the feedback to your body, when you can give the feedback to your body that this is fine. So
with a certain amount of lactate in your body,
exactly. Because you're gonna have some.
It's it's the arch between flow and fight. You just want to have them like running, producing as much lactate as they can reuptake. Like if it's exactly the same thing, that's where we need to get them
really fast and for a long time.
So what we did is try to push that limit, that internal limit that happens. So have them. So what we did is just make them go to that area more. Like have them.
Basically, what you told them is to fight. Right. Because the idea is that the fight to flight was you're trying to push that threshold further, and to do that, you just teach them a bigger fight. Bigger fight means the flight happens later at a higher lactate rate.
And on a hardware perspective, we actually see, and then the numbers confirm it, that they run faster, the heart rate goes up, but the lactate production doesn't really survive.
So that's a big one. How did you teach them how to fight?
Well, I did quite a bit of that in strength training, actually. I did quite a bit of that through nasal breathing on a few test subjects. We did quite a few of them. Now we have the bigger groups joining in, and they're getting to know it. But next week they're switching to the pace, to the maximum intensity nasal breathing. They're gonna
strength training. They use sandbags, sleds.
Yeah, that's what I do. So I try to.
I know, but
I fix the people that get broken. And I don't do running specific, by the way.
No, but I do all. By the way, we'll talk about this at some point.
But
there's a huge rate of injuries.
Carries and things like that. I'm really open for let's try them.
Right.
Let's see.
Because you build the hips, the feet, the everything. The
I want to do them something else, so that the recovery will be limited. That they can run their miles that they have to run, and that we don't need the classic like interval resistance training, and that we need 24 hours to
and by the way, very importantly, you train the software as well.
Yeah,
that was the key, right?
That's
you had
the point.
to tell them to go into fight.
Most of the people I train, if they're runners, which I get mostly through Bart, they can't push.
Yes.
So if I have them do at first do a few drills to get them stronger, and then eventually we go into the sandbag carries, they can't do it. I've actually seen two, and they were both girls, and I think that's something to do with it because they're very good at doing what you're asking them to do.
Women,
but all the guys just drop the bag. Yes. Like all the time, and then I can't do it anymore. And then 2 seconds later, they pick it up and they go again.
Yeah, and then they crash right after.
And they keep going like that, and they're like, but why are you stopping?
Yeah.
And they're like,
but for example, with the marathon, they run like 30K, and it's like 30K of fun. Like they're like in the flow. It's normal. They train for it. They're in the flow. But then the fight starts.
And they can't.
And then so they can do it for like a certain time. But most of the time they will fall down.
And then they go to flight, and flight means they start
they're losing pace, and
and then they can't run properly anymore and everything. Exactly. The switch from fight to flight means that your pace has to go down, and then that you can run with the proper mechanics, which leads to injuries and everything. So just by pushing, so I can tell people, just that by pushing the fight in the strength training, so training the software, you can delay that moment where they'll run like noodles and drop the pace and stuff like that.
Because that, I mean, just to oversimplify, it almost keeps that place a little more familiar, which means there's just a little less panic. You know what I mean?
It is the software.
It is the ability to just
panic. The problem is panic, as you say. Panic means you don't want to be there anymore.
You go there in training just so that you are aware of, oh, this is how it feels.
There in competition.
Yeah. And then when you get to that point in the race, you're like, I can do this. And as long as you can keep giving that feedback through breathing, through posture, through visual focus as well, which are all factors. So that's what we're working on. We work on these points. Just keep giving the feedback that's fine, I got this. This is basically what you're telling your body. And as long as you can do that, it's all good. As soon as your mind starts wandering, you start focusing on the ponytail of the girl in front of you, then you're like, no.
Yeah. Right. So that goes back to training the software. People have to understand how important the software is. That's the problem I see with the coaches. Like, we're going to train the Vo2 Max or this, but they don't understand the true, how much the mind, not even the mind, the software is an important.
It is the mind, but as well as the software.
It is the mind, but it's part of the software. Like, understanding the difference of not going into flight seems to be the biggest relationship to performance.
That's one of the biggest challenges in endurance sport.
Because if you want to run fast and not crash, you have to learn the difference between fight and flight. That means training the mind to take the pain of flight and not go to flight.
And what we see is that goes hand in hand with the energetic system. When you see like the lactate levels, okay, when it rises.
So the nervous system supersedes the energy systems. When did I say that? On that fucking video where OPEX got so pissed because I said the energy system goes after the nervous system.
We have the proof that on even in the hardware side.
And by the way, did you test for this, like with hardware numbers? Yes. So fuck all of you.
Yeah, really?
There you go.
Yeah, you have speed, you have lactate production. We even did cortisol testing. You know, like.
Is that enough? By the way, is that enough testing for you out there? Right, there you go.
That's the way I always look at it.
You can go further.
So it's like rightness comes before the proof. So
all the OPEX people are there. Now we have the proof. I hope it's enough for you guys. They don't say it's not because. But there you go.
What do you think?
We did the same thing. I have about. There's other topics on the same thing. We did a lot of testing on the neoprene. You know, I have the device that measures body fat, muscle quality.
Isn't that fucking amazing, the neoprene stuff?
Oh, it's
even me. Amazing. I was so fucking surprised.
I don't understand why not everyone on the mentoring program is doing it, because all the time we did talk about it. There are some practical.
Did you see that 15% increase in muscle on this?
That was mine. That was one of mine.
15%. 15% increase. This is steroids number in 2 months.
What we saw,
that's basically almost what I had on myself.
I checked the number beforehand before joining the podcast. We have the neoprene training compared to what I was doing before, which is the same kind of training, sandbags.
But just you added the neoprene.
Just added the neoprene. It's 38.
Which again, to put more context, in case someone's just getting in, is going to elevate the nature of the fight within their strength training. So it's not just regular strength training; it's strength training now.
In order to train the fight.
You're creating a hostile environment so that you have to go.
Right. And so now we put the neoprene on, and
it's 38% more effective than the training we did without. That's 38% talking about the muscle quality. So not just that measurement.
How many people are we talking about? How did you measure it?
Now I have 80 people.
80?
30 fully documented. I send it over.
I know.
We're going to publish it at some time. We need to.
Yes, please, so I can show it in people's face.
For the fat percentage, which is also a very important topic, because even in elite level athletes, endurance athletes, there seems to be a sort of a level where they're kind of stuck. They can't lose more fat, but they
by the way, it's fairly high. Yeah, you guys were talking about 18-19%. It's quite high.
So even for these people with the neoprene, we got massive amounts of reduction in body fat.
And localized too.
And localized. We have one where the triceps was really on one side.
He had a lady athlete, right, where the left tricep had like so he measured using something called Sculpt, which actually is something used for. What did they use it originally for?
It's a medical application.
It's a medical application.
It's based for ALS
so it's a
and
real stuff. So it's a real stuff. And then the left tricep had like 10% more body fat than the right one or something like that.
Even more
than that, right? It was a huge number, maybe in the 16%. Like there was it was 23 to 40. It was like some ridiculous number like that. Then you put the neoprene on, and you got the left tricep to basically equalize with the right. That alone should tell you to wear the neoprene.
Yeah, and not only that, because the tricep for a runner was not the most important thing.
No, but
we worked on the glutes as well. And we saw, for example, where the Sculpt, it is kind of the toy version, so to speak, of the medical application, but it still does what it's supposed to do, tracking progress.
It's consistent, which is all we need. Yeah.
So what we saw is by working, and that's something I've been preaching for a long while, even up against with the discussion with all the physiotherapists, for a runner, working on the Glute Max, for example, is one of these things.
This one is for Wendy, right?
Oh yeah,
because they only train the glute med.
So what they see from let's go into that a little bit. Like classic physiotherapy will tell you what the glute med is function during running is stabilizing.
You're a physio.
Yeah, background.
You were a physio, so they know, so people know.
Yeah. So they will tell you the glute med is for stabilizing during running, right? That's the main function of the glute med, right? So if you get an injury, you get inflammation in the glute med, or you get some problems anywhere else in that area, let's make the glute med stronger.
Yes. Yeah.
So we've been using it so much that now it hurts. So what we
let's do it more.
Use it
let's
more.
do more.
So what I do, I try to explain them IT and ET chains, so that they know. Yeah. So that they understand where I'm coming from. But I'm basically saying like, well, how about we make sure that it doesn't have to work so much, because you have other muscles in that IT chain while running.
There are other fucking muscles even in the glute area than the glute med. Can we stop with just the... Why is it only one muscle in the glute stuff? Do you guys know anything else? Just take and just throw it, and at some point on the Anaerobic chart, you're going to hit something else. Yeah. Oh my God.
But it's not against one person. I had the same discussion. It's a joke because she's in our club and she's actually helping a lot of people. She's doing the dry needling stuff, which is also controversial, the dry needling. It's one of these things.
By the way, I have no problem with physios as people. I'm talking about the system of physiology, the physiotherapy, the way it's being applied. Sometimes I'm like, guys, you have to stop. It's a hammer. You know, everybody with a hammer, everything is a nail. That's a little bit how they go at it. Everything. You know that for the squat, so they took that for the glute med, and now every time there's a problem with the squat, glute med.
That's what it is.
That's the only muscle that exists in the world now.
Problem, solution.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take into account state, it doesn't take into account other considerations.
Other muscles, how to create tension.
So if you have people, you test them, they don't have the main IT chain muscles, external obliques, glutes, they don't work properly, or they're not strong enough. They're basically running like a wet noodle, right? So, and then they get problems in the knees and IT band, because then that has to start compensating. The glute med starts to pummel. It's the same thing all over. And then another one we see a lot is Achilles tendon. The shins.
That's an excellent talk, because they rotate everything. I saw that with sprinters a lot.
Yeah, they keep getting that, and that's just simply because in the ET chain, you know it. For people listening, it's a good idea to re-explain. I think in the ET chain they have more power. They're stronger in that chain. But it's not supposed to be used for a long
time,
period of time. Exactly. Yeah.
So we try to explain them that, and then they're like, makes sense.
Yes, running in ET will destroy you because it's not designed for that. Yeah. Can you do it? Yeah, but at the expense of your joints.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 36 years.
Exactly.
But it's all of the problems I see are all problems related to that chain use.
How is the tension being created?
Yep. It's always the same thing, and then you have to go and try and help people find their glutes, help them find their hammies. It's the same thing, right? And it's the same thing. It's always the same problem, but it's very hard to do. Yeah, because it means when they have to go to that chain, they're not used to it. So when they start doing it the right way, they will actually run slower in the start. Yeah.
And plus, by the way,
it's going to be harder to be sore. And so how do you guide someone through that? Because I'm guessing the feedback you're going to get at that moment isn't maybe always the best. Like, I'm doing what you told me to do. Now, because of all this outcome shit that's been beating my head my whole life, I'm running slower.
Yeah. So you have to take away the outcome.
Equal slower.
You have to take it away. I have one specific edit where I'm thinking about. I just removed the data. Otherwise, it was not possible. She and her husband as well, and the coach as well, were very analytical, looking at the data. If the speed is not the same.
But what I always say to my athletes, like, look at Nina, my colleague. She runs like the long pace, the slow pace is like, let's make it simple, 5 minutes a kilometer. It's slow for her because she runs a marathon in 3 minutes 30 seconds the kilometer. There's no link between training 70% in your slow pace and your marathon pace. There's no.
Right, so marathon pace is 3:30 per kilometers, and you make a run at 5 minutes. Exactly. So that's super slow. For her, that's 50% slower for her, obviously.
Exactly.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's a huge difference.
Those trainings, they're like, that's the Vo2 Max trainings are like 70% of all trainings she has to run.
Oh, yeah. So basically, because she can run forever at that pace.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So what else did we do? So we took away the data, and.
The other things.
But to go back to something, so for example, if they can't find their glutes or their hammies, you found that putting the neoprene on suddenly changes everything, because now they can actually find the muscle. What we found, because they use a sculpt as well, that's how I got him through Wim, is that when they put the neoprene, they feel the warmth. corresponds exactly with the skull telling us that the quality of the muscle is low. Yeah. So the skull seems to be measuring the quality of the muscle, the capacity of expressing fight in that muscle. Yeah. So that's been a huge help for strength. It's been tremendous, but for endurance,
it's totally new.
Yeah,
it's totally new.
Yes, because they never look at fight.
Exactly.
Never.
Yeah. I want to pin this point down too that we talk about, especially when the more elite your athletes get as runners, there's just fucking mileage getting put on them.
Yeah,
which means when we're trying to
200 a week,
we're trying to add, trying to
convince
them.
200 kilometers a week.
What?
200 kilometers a week.
What did you say? They run 200 kilometers a week?
Yeah.
Okay. You fucking
that's really elite. Yeah, but it's 200 kilometers a week.
So, but at that
guys
point,
even more. But okay.
How are you gonna when you're adding strength training? You talk about something being 36, 38% more effective, like doing it in a neoprene. Well, that's time. That's just effective training. That's moving
that's what we're starting to do now.
That's how we collaborate, because I need the coach to be open for this, and I need them to in their training schedule make time for this. Swap out other trainings. You can't do both at the same time.
So it's almost like you need that coach to compromise their will just a little bit. Give me a little space in this for strength training, and I will give you the most effective and efficient and best use of your time for that strength training.
And then you get this. No, it's my athlete.
On purpose.
It's terrible.
Okay, so let's go back to 200 kilometers for a second. Without saying a month, right? We're saying a week. But first of all, how much are the feet? Can you imagine the work on the feet and the hips? Do they have any nails left? Toenails left at that?
Yeah, they have. They're all blue.
Yeah. But it's insane. 200. That's fucking insane. Well, yeah. So if you could diminish, the amount of kilometers per week like that, and translate it into
that's really our point of view as well.
It's where we're going, right? It's where we're going. We started doing that.
Is there a point where you're trying to get that to really to be less, so that your inputs can really align?
But because what they need is to run fast anyway. They don't need to.
One of the reasons we're experimenting with all of the stuff, the neoprene, with the nasal breathing, with all the other fight mode stuff, is that we believe that we can do better than just doing more. Yeah. And we don't have to add the strength training.
How much more can you do than 200 kilometers a week? That's fucking insane.
It's insane. Yeah.
And of course it has to be planned out for the races that are important. So
the problem is with the high doses of kilometers, there's no more room for quality training.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing all the same.
So by the way, you think once you get to that certain point, you spend so much of your training resources maintaining what you already have.
Exactly.
Then it's like, all right, any progress might require a step back, which I suppose then has to be built into your year.
And it can look like a step back, but it's like I saw the podcast with the mice and the novelty search that you do. It can look like a step back, but it's not a step back. You just take it on the road.
Making a right in order to go back forward.
Exactly.
Because it's being out of a maze is not. You don't know what the step is necessarily.
But most of the coaches say, "This worked last time. Let's do the same, but a little bit more of the same."
Because that's what they hear in the first place.
No, now this time
they didn't work. By the way, it's not the same person anymore.
Exactly.
You build from a 45% Vo2 Max to a 90%. It's not the same athletes. Like now the need has changed.
And they're blind for the next stepping stone. They're like,
yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. They have a straight line. They're just going to keep going through that. Yeah. They have one pattern and they can't change.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I didn't know the volume was that high.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
It's high. Yeah.
The hips, lower back, knees, feet, man. Even if you run like this, like your neck must be fucked up by that.
Like the question, is it normal, even for an athlete that you go 2 times a week to a kine, to a physio, 1 or 2 times a week to osteopath, like all those things, is that normal?
Right. But then that's when they say, well, performance costs you. Yeah, but maybe it doesn't have to cost that much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree that there is in your clients, there is it's a discussion I get into often with these people. Like, are you running for health or are you running for performance?
Right. Or that kind of brings back the point.
Yeah.
Right?
And if your race time is really that important, honestly, in my opinion, as soon as you go over 10K, you're not doing it for the health anymore. Anything over 10K.
You can do it for health, but you have to train smart.
It can be healthy, but it's still going towards the performance.
By the way, what I would like also to see is if you're running 200 kilometers a week, is how your mental health. Because the amount of flight, the amount of time in flight you spend in a high flight you spend.
That's exactly what we saw.
It was the actual words of the athlete saying, "I don't want to be here."
Yeah.
There you go.
Like
it's exactly
the training stage in Tenerife. It's like it's the best place to be. I don't want to be here.
It's a training stage. You can do what you like. No?
Yeah, just run 200 kilometers. Who wants to run 200? It's insane.
You had mentioned something in the performance workshop too about how you had an instance where somebody. I think you had some data that even confirmed this. That where you could almost see the point in which someone switches from doing to enduring. Do you guys remember that dialogue at all?
We can see it during the test.
Tell me about it.
We can see it during the test. Actually, in the lactate test, we saw it by the way it's a rate exertion perception. So it's a score they give based on their feeling. That one tells you. The lactate then confirms it.
Yeah.
Usually there's
the breathing as well.
There's a little delay between both because as soon as people start going over it, they don't actually feel it right away. They're still fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like 45 minutes after like a half hour, then they start feeling it, and then the flight or the fight will start. Yeah, and then I have to see like how long
the breathing switches.
Yeah,
we did the pupil thing. One important one we did see, by the way, so in elite level athletes where we did the same pupil dilation test. Yeah. It was the opposite. Like most people the pupils started going all the way, opening more and more and more, so more dilation. As soon as they were going over that spicy point, right?
There was a focus.
Yeah, but elite level athletes, no, you get the opposite. And as soon as they start getting spicy, they're like, whoa.
Because the fight started.
That's why
because they're like, now the shit gets real.
Now the fun begins.
Yeah, that's not just the ability to do what we talk about, the negative consequences of fighting and endurance. That is more like what we talk about with... what's the word I'm looking for? With flow under pressure at that point, right? Where you get there and it's like, no, I need control.
You know, I had to invent some extra torture at the end of the session with a few guys.
Yeah,
just to get them to fight. Just it's not you don't want to do that for health reasons, but obviously for the test it was fun. So I did ask him their permission in advance if they were up to, and they didn't know what it was. So basically, what happened after their maximum sprint test on the 400, 600, 800 meter, even that guy. I was like, I got some extra stuff for you. And he thought he was done, right? I was like, sprint to that pole and come back.
It's like, no way.
No, he was like, no, man, you agreed. Yeah, so do it. And he was done again. Thank you. Like, now do that one. And just to keep you. And then I man. Then it started opening. That was fun. That fun.
Yeah, but it's the mental shock that gets you.
As soon as they don't really want to do it anymore, but they feel like they have to.
They don't. Yeah.
But isn't that what we're doing with the training templates? With people following the training templates, even if they don't feel like it. It's exactly the same thing. They don't want to be there. They do it because the coach tells them to, because their training template tells them to.
Exactly, that's the worst.
Because the program says so.
There's a huge difference between being lazy and not really wanting to go out because it rains. It's different, right?
I think being lazy and being misaligned are two very different things.
Exactly.
And there's a time where it's like, I got to do this. And I'm like, I don't have this today. Like, this is not the day.
Right.
Now, if I do that 10 days in a row, either I'm lazy or I'm really misaligned.
Exactly.
But there should be a fucking conversation to be had about it.
Yeah,
and
is it a squat day?
Even yesterday, like there was an athlete, normally, according to the schedule, he should run like 12K. But he didn't feel like recuperated enough. So he wrote me in his coach box as like the program to the phone. Like, I'm so sorry, coach, but I didn't run it today. I mean, where's the excuse? Like, dude, don't apologize. It's just good. You listen to your body. I know that he almost skips. It's one training in 1 month that he skips. It's not because it's like not doing the program.
He took a day off today instead of 2 days later. At the end, the average is out anyway.
Exactly.
So
Well, I think that's another trap people run into with any template base, where you're just doing as you're told, as everybody believes. Like, I don't know if you know this, but your body is not that certain that there's 7 days in a week.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter. So what if you had your weekly training cycle done on an 8-day week?
On a 5-day week, depending.
Or depending on like those little changes that people don't even think about. I remember I wrote programming templates and I put just arbitrarily Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's the same as I do.
And I'm getting told on it, like, well, is it okay if I do that workout on Tuesday? And then I could do the other one on Thursday? And I'm like, yeah.
I know. It's like your body doesn't know it's Sunday, dude. Like, I mean, like church does, but you don't. Yeah.
No, but then there's like, but I really want to follow the program as you made it, but
we see that so much. Oh, we see that so often.
I make it in interaction with you. You do have to give me the feedback, and
that's a whole different podcast right there. Yeah.
So now they do it on a weekly basis, and they also sprinkle in things like, look, to work on the fight mode, we put them into uncomfortable positions. Yeah. So they have to go, even people that don't do races, like their local races all that much, he's like programming the races, like do some more of these local races, just to get used to like that feeling,
stress
right?
And eyes and noise and
crowd. Try that.
You need a hostile environment. Yeah. That was the point of the neoprene. I was making that point at the Olympic Center. It's like, because they have some, that one, Hebke, you know, like the guy who got the gold medal, like he's a doctor too. He's one of those guys, he loves testing. So he has no problem under pressure, he loves that. But they have also raw diamonds that do very well in training, very poor in competition. Yeah. I was like, all right, so I have a simple way, you're going to hate me, but you're going to do your stuff with compression gear on, not neoprene, but compression, because then you're going to be hot, uncomfortable. It's going to mimic how you feel the day of the competition. Yeah.
Plus in a marathon, especially, those things are often done as big events. And how most runners train is certainly not how the first few miles of a marathon feel. When you've got a fuckload of people and loud music and balloons and people and cheering. And it's like, well, this is going on for a lot of this race, and you are training in silent darkness all year.
And by yourself.
And then you wonder why
no one is watching.
And they're at the start, they're full sympathetic and they're like,
adrenaline is flowing.
And if they've never even...
In the mind, it's like, what if I had today like a really good day?
Right. Yes.
It does not exist.
Famous last words. Yeah, exactly.
But that brings us to another topic, right? We did discuss the carbo-loading topic multiple times because it's highly controversial. It's not controversial. Everyone's convinced that it works, carbo-loading, right? Mm-hmm. But we did talk about it. And one of these things is that carbo-loading, just when you do it, there's another point where we probably need to talk about, but the day of the race, they start using highly glycemic sugar, carbs, right? And then they feel like, all right, I got this. And then you get overconfident. Yes. And then they're like, I should be able to do this. This is always a famous last word. So
because when you can say that, I should be able to do this at 32 kilometers, I'm fine. Because then you can fight for 1 hour. But if you say that at the start of the marathon, where you have to run 2 hours, 30 minutes or longer, then you have a problem. You won't make it.
Because and then you go to the Fristonian stuff, right? The prediction is, I should be able to do this, but the marathon is never an easy thing.
And so no matter what, you'll be disappointed and
you're
you'll get
always
crushed.
having to correct your prediction with reality down.
Exactly.
If you assume that the marathon will be easy, or you should be able to do it right, as soon as you assume it, you're
well, the second you say that it should be fine on the marathon running at full speed, like that's the stupidest thing to say anyway.
It is the first marathon of most people, recreational. It's mostly feeling-wise really okay. Because they don't know what's coming.
They don't, exactly.
And you warn them, don't start too fast, 1,000 times.
Don't worry about it.
Don't start too fast. Okay. Then they go and, the second time, they think, and then it's a bit a while, like the first one. And then, but I did a good last time, now
I'm going to go faster.
They go faster.
And they crash. They burn out around 30, 35. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same as in English, but in our language, it's the guy with the hammer.
No, they call it the wall.
They say hammer time.
Hammer time. We say hammer time.
So in English, they call it the wall, hitting the wall. But I like it. Hammer time.
That's basically and most of it is attributed to energy, right? The classic thinking is like, this is an energy matter. Like, I'm running out of fuel.
Yeah, your glycogen is getting low, and you're getting to the fats, and the fats won't give you the same pace. And also the feeling will be
But it's a software thing.
That's what I was trying to explain. Yeah, it's because from the beginning you were
regulated by software.
Exactly.
Totally.
I don't think they understand the effects of the crowd and the beginning of the race on how they feel. The problem is, and we've seen that a lot, for example, with those raw diamonds that don't perform well in competition, is the gap between how you feel and performance. They associate how they do on how they feel. And sometimes those two are not related.
You are not what you feel. It's not the same.
It's not the same. So the day of the competition, you're going to feel a certain way that is not how you actually are performing. But because of the changes in your environment, it pushes you toward a feeling that does not match your performance, and now you're in so much trouble. So you train a certain way, and now you're performing a different.
We're basically saying like their potential performance is their performance minus the interference.
Exactly.
It's basically what's going on. So the more you mess with it.
Right,
so but, you need to get used to
not understanding that the crowd, all that stuff, has an effect.
It has a massive effect.
That's where the problem is. Everybody's like,
That's also where it goes a bit wrong with the mass events, like a big marathon cruise.
very popular. Though.
Yeah, it's popular. Yeah,
exactly. But that makes it worse.
Marketing and okay, but whatever. But
exactly.
You have to stay calm. You can train it. You can like meditation or yoga or things like that.
But so what you need is the software and the hardware, because you need to know your pace.
Exactly.
But then after that, you need to know how you handle.
Exactly.
All
That's why I really
loved
to make my athletes run progress in a progressive way into the marathon. Like you start, the start pace is like slower than the pace of the end. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So then
you keep winning. You know.
You give the energetic systems the time to wake. We not.
So you keep winning every kilometer basically 46 times.
Yeah. And first you get a lot of amount of fats that you're burning, and then you go towards your sugars and then towards your glycogen. But if you start too fast, like glycogen,
it's glycogen right away.
End up there right away.
And then fats at the end, and you don't want that.
No, you don't want that. Then you can keep pumping gels and things, and your stomach will be like, and then it's over. Yeah.
What people need to realize when you go to fight, or in flight, especially flight though, is that your body functions like the chemical processes. They don't get prioritized anymore. Optimal glycogen synthesis just isn't there anymore. You were explaining me how all these glycogen processes work. I was like, each time I was like, yes, this is flight. Your body, your energy is going towards enduring whatever it needs to do, or not towards being efficient and controlling your environment, right? Yeah. So how did that work with the synthesis from the glycogen? Because I found that very interesting. It's a chemical process, but as I was listening to it, like
if we say like the when you want to keep your glucose or your glycogen, then we say like you do carb loading. It's a way of that it's common in marathon running, like you can do it. But you can put the question like, why can't you just eat normal and like from fats and then the gluconeogenase and make glycogen out of them?
Yeah,
that's an important thing that we can. Maybe try something.
That's when you talk carbo-loading, right?
There are other ways to produce glycogen. No, like carb is a very convenient way of doing it. That doesn't mean it's the optimal way. There's a difference between convenient and optimal, which has been my conversation
I'd like to hear between you two, because I'm out of my league there. So he was explaining me the entire process from a chemical side. I'm like, sure, but when we know the software does what it does, right? When you throw in carbs,
the price to pay with carbs. Yes, exactly.
So how does it work? You go 2 or 3 days without carbs?
Yeah, most of all, like the race on Sunday, mostly. For example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you go low carb, and then they start on a high carb. Okay,
it's almost like a bodybuilding thing. Yeah, they deplete and then they put it back in.
Most of them, they don't know what means low carb, what means high carb, how much do you need to eat specifically. They exaggerate really, like they go, oh, now it's high carb day, everything,
and then they pound,
and then the water stays in the body. But most we will see that, or we see that it works for most of the people. But in which way, not really sure.
No, plus it works, but the problem is we don't have comparison with anything else, because we've been doing it at every race. And on top of it, I just would like to see how depleting carbs and putting it back in, how does it affect sleep, for example? Well, because can we talk about this? Because that alone would affect performance.
Yeah, we talked about that.
The fact that sleep is never calculated into any of this, I find just amazing.
I think certainly for quite experienced marathon runners, like they know already the feeling, like it's Thursday, I'm preparing myself for the marathon, I get a little bit into, and then you can say, okay, he's stressed anyway, so okay, you can eat carbs. They won't make you stress even more because you're already in stress.
I think it's because they are going slightly sympathetic anyway. Their digestion, if you put in heavy protein at that point, it probably won't work.
No, so if you're super stressed,
that would be a good explanation as to why.
Yeah, but I would give them protein easier to digest rather than going to workouts. But we can do that in another podcast. We can go, because that's going to be another hour conversation.
There's also the fact that there's a pretty high correlation to the fact that many very elite athletes, professionals in almost any sport, have what can be described as an uncanny sense of calm amongst those stress. Like LeBron James ain't freaking out the night before the final. He doesn't give a fuck. Some guy, that 10th man on the bench might be worried, but
those guys are already in flow with that
like that because sometimes what makes you great at what you do is kind of your ability to maintain that. Therefore, we're taking these general thing and applying it to everything,
and the software is a big one.
And so that's why I'm open with the carb loading thing. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
But that's performance, that's a marathon.
Yeah.
So there are things. Marathon is not a normal activity. It's not a 1 hour training session at the gym.
The same discussion happens when we refer people to StrongFit and they listen to the podcast about nutrition and they're like, but I need my sugars when running. When you're testing
okay,
the
but
system.
by the way, but again, we'll do a podcast about this. But it's not you need sugar. I'm like, okay, fine. But the question is how much. If you have too much, you'll get an insulin spike. You'll crash.
You go too far
because of the brain serotonin, which we like at the dampener. But high intensity exercise will limit an insulin spike. So how far is too far? That's the true conversation. But could you use sugar as you train? It's a fucking test.
Now, what's cool though is what you guys have been doing with the data, with the hardware, the software, is you've been finding a way to find that balance that is most efficient. So when we talk about this is just kind of the next phase of problems, right? The nutrition, the carbs, how does that apply to this pure level of endurance? And
let's talk about the price to pay.
So we know this works, we know this kind of works, and now we got to figure out how to blend these things. Right?
We're slowly
Yeah, but the result they've been having so far is ridiculous. It shows you we're on to the right thing because the results, like I've seen the numbers.
You're right. It's not.
Just I was very resistant to StrongFit in the start when I followed. I actually emailed you the thing right after the seminar.
The survey monkey survey,
exactly. So there were points where I didn't agree or where I didn't feel it, right? So it was not a matter of opinion, more feeling wise, right? So it took me, I think, a year or so to just chew on it and then play with it in daily activities. And then I was like, all right, so this kind of works. And then you start getting more and more into it. And then for him, it was the same thing. I introduced it to him. And at the start, there was the same story all over again. So there's resistance.
That's normal. It's unconventional.
And now
it goes against what everybody has been saying.
And now when you go into athletes, and
I win over time. I totally get it.
Yeah, now we're getting the same from our athletes.
But it's exactly what you're saying. We're trying to mix it because we know it works.
There's something there. After we just have to.
That's the beauty. Maybe we wrap up on this. Is what I think it's important to know is you guys didn't set out to prove that something works. What you did was set out to find what works and then to figure out maybe what's behind it and why it works. And I think that's what makes it more valuable than coming in and saying, I came here to prove that neoprene training is more effective.
No, we got nothing to
because that's not it. What you wanted to do was see what's going to be more efficient for your athletes.
Especially for him, he's very successful. He's quickly becoming the reference in entire Belgium, maybe, even beyond. For all that all that is endurance.
Yeah, so there's nothing to prove.
There's nothing to prove.
He has no reason to follow me into the rabbit hole, so to speak. That is StrongFit. And I was like, but I can see from the data that your stuff is working. So why wouldn't I not do it?
When you're good at something, the only thing you care about is getting better. You have nothing to prove. You just want to get better at what you do. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's rock and roll here. We have some American guests who are starving. I can tell.
I'm hungry. I won't lie. I'm super hungry right now too.
So, with a flight, dinner in the evening, who knows what time of day it is.
Exactly.
So let's rock and roll. But guys, where can people find you at?
Smartsport.com.
B.
And B as well is the same.
Oh, it's the same.
It's the same.
Right.
I'm at rawfit.be. Or Facebook or whatever.
Okay. Julian's at StrongFit1.
I hear.
I'm at Tyler Effin Stone. We have UK32, Rare Barracuda, StrongFit.com, StrongFitEquipment.com, Julian'sCorner.com, StrongFitEquipment.eu. I'm probably out.
Sorry. My bad. I'm sleeping already.
Training.strongfit.com. If you want to support the podcast, go to podcast.strongfit.com. Other than that, we'll see you next week.
I know. Well, actually, that's hearing the numbers alone. I'm like, fuck me. Yeah, that was cool. That's amazing. The respect I have for anybody capable of doing stuff like that, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Shit.
And they get paid like this.
I know. But
they do it because they love it.
200 kilometers a week, no shit. Yeah, that's very impressive. That's very
awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.